The Kingdom Beneath the Sands. Late one summer, a group of 4 adventurous friends, Yusef, Amin, Rania, and Salma, decided to explore the vast and enigmatic Moroccan desert. Tales of haunted dunes and cursed sands didn't faze them, they were seasoned explorers, eager for a thrilling story to share. However, this journey would not be like their others. On the second night of their trek, after hours of travel, they stumbled upon an abandoned village nestled between 2 enormous dunes. The village seemed untouched by time, ancient stone houses stood eerily intact, their doorways gaping like dark mouths. Against their better judgment, the group decided to camp near the village, seeking shelter from the relentless desert winds. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a heavy silence fell over the desert. The only sound was the faint whisper of the wind, carrying with it strange, unrecognizable murmurs. The first sign. After dinner, Yusef suggested exploring the village. Armed with flashlights, the group ventured into the silent settlement. Each house they passed seemed darker than the last, the air growing colder despite the desert's usual warmth. Rania shone her flashlight into one of the houses and gasped. Etched into the walls were symbols that none of them could decipher, spiraling patterns that seemed to twist unnaturally under the light. "That's enough," said Salma, her voice trembling. "Let's head back." But Yusef insisted on pressing forward, leading them to a central courtyard where a well stood. The well's stone edges were smooth, as though worn down by centuries of use. Inscribed around its edge was a warning in ancient Arabic: "He who awakens the king will never leave the sands." A door to another realm. Ignoring the ominous warning, Yusef picked up a small rock and dropped it into the well. Instead of the expected splash, a deep, guttural growl echoed up. The air grew heavy, and the ground beneath them trembled faintly. A faint blue light began emanating from the well, casting eerie shadows on their faces. "Run!" screamed Amin, breaking the silence, but as they turned, the ground gave way beneath them. They fell into darkness, landing in a vast underground chamber. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and dim, glowing symbols lined the walls. They realized with growing dread that they were no longer in the world they knew. The King of the Sands. As they stumbled through the chamber, the light from Rania's flashlight flickered and died, leaving them in near total darkness. That's when they heard it, a deep, resonant voice that seemed to come from all directions. "You have trespassed into my kingdom." From the shadows emerged a towering figure, cloaked in robes made of shifting sands. Its face was obscured, but its eyes burned like molten gold. This was the King of the Sands, a being said to rule over the desert's supernatural realm. The king raised a skeletal hand, and the walls of the chamber began to shift, forming tunnels that twisted and turned like a living labyrinth. The first to fall. Panic set in, and the group ran blindly through the tunnels. Salma, who lagged behind, screamed as shadowy figures emerged from the walls, dragging her into the darkness. Her cries echoed through the chamber before being abruptly silenced. The remaining 3 pressed on, desperate to escape. They stumbled into a room filled with ancient relics, golden trinkets, jeweled daggers, and parchments inscribed with unearthly writing. "Don't touch anything," Amin warned, but Yusef, driven by a mix of fear and greed, grabbed a golden amulet. Instantly, the chamber filled with a deafening roar. The king appeared again, his eyes burning brighter. "You cannot take what is mine." A battle of wits. The king began to summon shadowy creatures from the walls, their forms shifting and writhing. Amin, thinking quickly, threw the amulet back toward the king. The creatures paused, their movements uncertain. Rania, clutching a small Quran she always carried, began reciting verses aloud. The shadows recoiled, and the king let out a furious howl. The chamber began to collapse, and the friends saw a faint light in the distance, a possible exit. Escape, or not? Amin and Rania reached the exit, the ground crumbling beneath their feet. Yusef, however, tripped and fell, the shadows dragging him back into the darkness. The last thing they saw was his terrified face disappearing into the void. As Rania and Amin emerged into the cool desert night, the village was gone. In its place was an endless stretch of dunes, the well nowhere to be found. They wandered aimlessly until a passing caravan found them at dawn, dehydrated and delirious. The haunting aftermath. Years later, Amin and Rania still bore the scars of that night. They avoided the desert, never speaking of what had happened. But sometimes, in the dead of night, they would hear a faint, guttural growl and feel the weight of unseen eyes watching them. And in the deepest corners of their dreams, they saw Yusef, trapped beneath the sands, his eyes burning like molten gold, forever a part of the king's cursed kingdom.